phone, actually, because I know what Wales is like, and, oh yeah, hang on a minute, it's a live event. Oh, there you go, hang on. Oh no, go back, sorry. Yeah, go on. Yeah, Wales is awful for getting a good signal, so I'm sat still. I'm not moving around.
Oh, thank you for doing this, though.
That's all right. It's a pleasure. I'm going to enjoy this, I think.
Oh, good. So people are joining now, so it's just gone live. Those of you that are joining, thank you for joining. I have a guest on today, and her name is Elaine. Just before we start, have you watched any of my videos just so you can sort of understand where I was trying to come from?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've watched quite a few of them. Absolutely. Yeah, I know what you're about.
Okay, that's good. I'm just trying to get the TikTok up on my monitor as well so I can read messages as well. People are saying hello to us, which is lovely.
Hello, everybody.
Hopefully, can everybody hear my guest? Only because they don't have 1,000 followers, so we're having to do this via a phone. So if you could just let me know if you could hear my guest, if you want to say something, Elaine.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, people.
I hope I'm going to get this right. I hope I don't let anybody down.
That's all right. No worries. Not at all. I mean, I've, as you obviously can imagine, I've been trying to research as much as possible as well, to do with the Bible, because the last time I read it, I was back in the Dark Ages. It's when they probably wrote it. But going back through the Bibles myself, and listening to other people, including preachers, etc. I don't think there doesn't seem to be a definitive answer for everything. There seems to be some sort of, some versions have one sort of story. So, for example, there was one person that they'd wrote down 700 people, and then there was another version that said 7,000 people. So I don't think people's going to be too upset with you if you
that's all right then.
Wrong. So I'm just reading the messages now that people can hear us, which is great. So I'll just give people, because I don't know who's joining, a bit of background on me, and then I don't know if you'd like to give them a bit of background about yourself.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I'm not a professor or anything like that. This is all done for my own benefit, really, for 40 years of just looking into all sorts of things, not just aliens, but spirits, Bigfoots, spontaneous human combustion, all sorts of things. And no one ever wanted to talk to me about any of this stuff until TikTok came along, and I did a couple of videos, and lo and behold, there is actually people that's interested. So I'm not classically educated or anything like that regarding these subjects. In my defense, I think if I was, university trained, chances are I probably wouldn't know half of the stuff, just because of the companies that fund the universities. So it's just all self-taught, really. And I've always been interested in how people see the Bible, and I've been trying to talk to people over the years, but no one wants to talk to me. And I am so grateful that Elaine has joined today. So it's not going to be a bashing or anything like that. It's just going to be, I'm very curious to know a lot of things. So hopefully you don't mind me asking many questions as well. Just because no one really talks to me about these things, so it's going to be great. So over to you, Elaine, if you want to give people a bit of background about your knowledge.
Okay. Yeah. Well, my dad told me years ago. I was reading loads of horror stories when I was at school when I was 14, which is back in the day as well. And I came downstairs. My dad said, "You want to read the Bible? There's a load of horror stories in that." And it wasn't so much I took him up on it. I just thought, oh God, I've got a book, so I'm going to read the Bible. Okay, I'll give it a go. And I found Psalms a little bit boring, and all of this begat him, and he begat her, and they begat. And I thought, you know what, actually, I'll read through that again, because I didn't quite understand that. And for years, over the years, I've been reading through my Bible. I'm not a theologian. I'm not trained. I went to school, ended school at 16, became a hairdresser, got married, had children, end of story. So, yeah, I'm now in glorious Wales, and I've got horses and chickens and cats and dogs, and I really enjoy life. And I do believe myself fully that there is something greater than me that I must be grateful to for being able to live the life I'm living.
That's brilliant.
That is why I feel as I do. And that's me.
Brilliant. Okay. So, like I say, not many people want to talk to me. So, what can I? Again, these are just genuine questions that I'm genuinely interested in knowing. So, after reading the Bibles, what makes you feel that there is something more than us humans?
Okay, I always felt there was something else. I always had a great feeling and belief within myself. I'm going to say in my soul. I always felt that there was something else. Not because I wanted to, not because I had a troubled childhood, because I didn't. I always felt there was something greater than me. My mum tried to send me to Sunday school in the afternoons, on a Sunday afternoon. I'm presuming so mum and dad could get together and snog off for the afternoon. And at one point I said, well, you and dad don't go to church, so why should I go to Sunday school? And I stopped. And then I was reaffirmed a few years ago because I was having trouble, and I always knew there was something greater than me. And yeah, I truly believe that. It's from my own deep-seated feeling within my soul.
So would that be more of a sort of an entity that's above everyone else as such, e.g. God, or would it be more of a spiritual thing, e.g. Spirits, deceased people, light energy beings? Which one would that be, or that you would?
Okay, well, over the years I've done very many things, and I've travelled quite a bit, not extensively. So I've seen on my travels jokes about, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Goat, and that was in Rome. So my thought there, when I saw that, it's an old painting. It's painted by some comedian, probably, almost 2,000 years ago. My immediate thought then was, well, actually, if a comedian can be joking about something like that, then there is something to this. Because I've always searched. I've always believed within myself there's something greater than me. But I've always been that little bit. That's where I cottoned on to Our True History and watched all of your videos, because I thought, obviously, you have a belief as well, so I have to appreciate and acknowledge your belief as well. But to me, there's always been something greater than me that I can be thankful to.
That's brilliant. Thank you for answering. So, would you say that the Bible has helped you solidify that belief that you have, or has it sort of muddied the water? Sorry, again, these are genuine questions, not trying to.
Okay, no, I'll tell you what did muddy the waters, because I read my Bible a few times, and obviously at school we are taught, no, there weren't no such thing as Adam and Eve. We're taught the scientific way, which we've come up through the ages, and we've learned to stand on our feet, and we've just progressed through the ages. Man has evolved. So I had to try and marry that to my belief in the Bible. And I thought I'd done that quite well until I started watching your videos, and I thought, oh, just a minute, how am I going to try and lump that into my belief in the Bible and what the Bible actually says? Yeah, really, that's where I am at the moment. I'm like, oh, okay, I've got to try and marry this thing of extraterrestrials in now, and was it them that came and, during the primordial soup, they tinkered with loads of different DNAs? Don't know. I'm still on the cusp of I don't know, but I truly believe that there's something very deep and meaningful in the Bible.
Okay, so
I answer that well, or am I being a politician?
No, that's fine. No. So my take on so where you sort of went all the way back to the sort of beginning, there's some stories out there that there's an ancient race that went round. Even the Aborigines talk about, and what they called the ancients that went round seeding planets. But again, the Aborigines weren't around when the planets would have been
Yeah.
seeded. So I always find that difficult to swallow. But I am on the same agreement that life evolved, whether it was through panspermia, either deliberately by an alien race or by another meteorite with bacteria or whatever on it that came to Earth. So I kind of believe in all the way up to hominids or Homo sapiens, just before Homo sapiens sapiens, in other words, Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo florensis, Homo erectus, those characters that were on Earth. So I agree with you up to that point, but then we've got the missing link, which, from science point of view, they can't actually give us a definitive reason why there's a jump from the hominids to the Homo sapiens sapiens.
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
Right, I would say then that actually, I believe that God chose two, or he chose one and put him to sleep, broke off a rib and made a woman.
Okay.
It's that simple. That and it was actually a greater being than us, be it somebody from another planet or a greater being. Because my initial thoughts about the Bible was actually, hang on a minute, let me think. Okay, if we go back and God created the earth in 7 days, I don't believe that. I've got to say, I truly don't believe that. I believe it was over 7 millennia, probably. It took millennia to create something like this. It took millennia for the planets to cool down, and for this planet in particular to be hit by whatever, but to be able to grow the smallest plant. So to a live being,
No, that's interesting, because where the Bible talks about various things, there is things that you, on your own admission, find that they don't seem to be, or in your opinion, don't seem to be such as the 7 days. So you can differentiate between what's written and what you feel. You're not sort of stuck hard and fast with whatever's in the Bible, so to speak.
Absolutely. I mean, for a god, say, or a demigod, as one of the big comedians believes that there are still gods and demigods, doesn't he? Or he'd rather sort of talk to Jupiter or Zeus or one of those, And what's a day for one of those guys? It could be millennia for us. Because they live 5,000-10,000, years, or that they're ageless. So that brings me on to the Anunnaki.
So are you familiar with the Sumerian cuneiform tablets at all?
A little, yes, yeah. From what you've said, so
Okay, so there's a few people out there that have translated many of the tablets. I know people always want to try and bash Zecharia Sitchin because he is, in my opinion, probably the best at the translations of them. He's passed now, sadly. Now, the reason why I say he's correct is because you've got people like Professor Ivan Finkel, who's the creator of the British Museum, who actually has 130,000 of those tablets in the British Museum. So one of those is called the Umm Elish, which is what is in my opinion later on, because the Sumerian cuneiform tablets do predate the Bible. I think everyone kind of has to agree that they were the original first ever writing. Because we've actually got things like the Dead Sea Scrolls where we can read the Hebrew, the Babylonian, and even Old Greek from that. So we know that there's a transition all the way to Hebrew. So when we finally get to the Bible, we know that there's things before that. So I think the Umm Elish is what in the Bible would be classed as a creation story. Are you familiar with that tablet?
No.
So basically the tablet, which is actually in the British Museum, talks about another planet coming into our solar system I know this is quite amazing, seeing as back then when they were written, there was no telescopes, etc., etc. But they talk about a planet coming in now. What was interesting, because I'd like to know your thoughts on this, is in that tablet they refer to the celestial objects such as Mars, Jupiter, and so on as deities.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, if any?
Well, they quite possibly could have been, couldn't they, at the time? I mean, you know, I wouldn't know personally. My take on it is, I think, yeah, all these planets were formed all at the same time, weren't they? You know, if another planet came through, could that have been some sort of, you know, like the Halley's Comet, that sort of thing, you know, and just whizzing by on a larger trajectory, if I can get the word out. Maybe that star then just died, you know, and we don't have that planet coming through anymore because that star died and that planet just floated away, or it could have been that planet floating away on its own.
Well, the actual tablet carries on. Sorry to cut you off. The actual tablet carried on, and basically it said that their home, the Anunnaki's home planet, which we call Nibiru, as it came through. So, in other words, it was a rogue planet, shouldn't have come into our solar system.
Yeah.
And it had 4 moons, which again they still classed as deities, which is why I was interested to know if there was, because I know in the Bible they refer to God and dragons and things. So I'll get to the dragons later on, but I was wondering whether the sort of the moons were ever mentioned in the Bible. But the moons ended up hitting a planet called Tiamat that was located between Jupiter and Mars, if I remember correctly, and smashed it, and it created the Tiamat that got smashed up, created Earth, the moon, and the asteroid belt. This is in the tablet that's in the British Museum. And then Nibiru ended up being stuck on a 3,600 year elliptical orbit. So I was just curious to know, because obviously there is the creation stories. Now I know there's different creation stories. I mean, some of them's got turtles with you know, swimming through the universe and things like that. But from the Bible's point of view, what would be the creation story? I know it was obviously the 7 days, but is there anything you can take from what I've just said from the English?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think there is actually, because it makes sense that something like that would have happened. I mean, it says, you know, to me, it was a big bang that happened, which, you know, you're going back to, you know, the beginning of the universe, or the beginning of the whole of the universe, with the Big Bang, and then everything is created. So for me, they could be deities. You know, the Mars and Pluto, they could all be old deities that have, you know, just gone on to either become planets, or they, you know, they are still deities. I wouldn't know. You know, it's to me, what you're saying makes sense in a way. But I haven't read the cuneiforms. I've listened to you talk about them. So it can all make sense if we want it to.
Right. Now Zecharia Sitchin did translate a tablet. I'm trying to find exactly where that tablet is. Unfortunately, when you've got, for example, the Rockefellers that pretty much run most of the museums, and you realise that they're not that interested in letting us know sort of a different history to what we've got, it's very difficult to try and pinpoint down some of the tablets that Zecharia Sitchin translated back 30, 40, 50 years ago. But there should be a tablet where we've got that in his translations, that says the Anunnaki came down, and for the first 6 days they were cataloguing plants, water, animals, etc. And then on the 7th day, Enki said, "That's it. Today, from now on, every 7th day is going to be a day of rest." I mean, if I can find that tablet, I mean, that's, to me, that would be the holy grail of everything. But we've also got the tablet in the British Museum of the about the chat with Noah. So I'm not 100% familiar with the Bible version of that, but in the tablet, so if maybe you can help me out, but the tablet actually starts with Enki, which is a name of one of the Anunnaki, telling Noah, the name wasn't Noah, telling Noah, or telling the wall, his reed wall in his bedroom, because he's not allowed to tell Noah because of the, he was sworn not to be able to tell humans about the impending flood, which was a tsunami. So how does that play out in the Bible that God talks to Noah and tells him? Because we've got a tablet that predates the Bible, so I'm just curious to know what the Bible says. Cause I should have researched that, but I haven't. So if you give me.
Well, basically, he took Noah, or he asked Noah to go off somewhere, didn't he? I can't remember where it was now. It was some mountain somewhere, wasn't it? And he told Noah to go there, and I think Noah was doing a load of writing, and well, he wasn't actually. I don't think he was. I think actually he sent Noah to sleep, to be quite honest, from what I can read in the Bible. You know, and I mean, I'm just looking for it a moment, because he sends Noah off, doesn't he? And he tells him, I think in a dream, doesn't he? That's what it is, yeah. He tells Noah in a dream that this is what you have to do. This is what I want, and you need to be able to take two of everything. And to me, that's what happened. He took Noah off on his own, and he put him to sleep, and he told him in a dream.
Right, okay. So that's really interesting. Thank you for that. It's because the tablet we've got literally says that it was in his the reed wall between Enki and the bedroom of Noah. I can't remember his name that it was translated to, but we'll call him Noah. So he was talking so that Noah would hear through the reed wall. In other words, bushes, reeds, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then he read out exactly how much wood and rope, etc., he would need, and then he left those instructions on a table by the reed wall, so that when Enki left, Noah would come out, see the tablet, and make that Noah's Ark, which was, according to that tablet, it's a round shape that was sealed over, as opposed to sort of the boat shape that we're all used to. So it kind of matches the Bible. Now, my take on the Bible is, because we've got older text than the Bible, there is actual text out there of the cuneiform, then Babylonian, then Aramaic, then it goes down to Hebrew. So, and they've all got the same writings on them. So we know that the Hebrew copied the Aramaic, that copied the Babylonian, that copied the Sumerian. So from my point of view, I see that the Bible had tried, whereas all the cuneiform tablets that I've read so far make sense, whereas the Bible has bits that just doesn't seem to quite fit. And my version would be that that's because they're sort of Chinese whispers. They're a translation off of a translation of a translation.
Yeah. Well, I think that as well. I know it's a translation of a translation of a translation, and I believe that there are a lot of books missing from the Bible, because I've tried to find all of those books. I've got the Gospel of this and the Gospel of that person. I've even got the Gospel of Judas. And you think, well, how can that be if this is the only, this is what the church will present to you, or, the Catholic Church or the Greek Coptic Church will present to you, or the Jewish, Hebrew will present to you. Why do they have so many things missing? And my own take on that is that they couldn't understand, and they couldn't put it into words to, possibly they were thinking that the masses were uneducated, which we were at the time. How do you make the masses of uneducated folks understand this is what actually happened? Because a lot of the people just would not, they'd have turned away from the church. So I believe it's a lot to do with the church, getting all their heads together and saying, well, this is what we got to tell them, and if we're going to translate it from the Latin into English or German or Dutch, this is what we've got to let them know. We can't let them know too much, because they will turn their faces away from the church.
Right, now that makes sense.
Yeah.
So who do
Because the
you...
church made a lot of money out of us, uneducated, unwashed, didn't they?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
So, you know, go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, so who, in your opinion, is the Elohim? Because if you go back to the Old Testament, it's a plural. So me and Zachariah Sitchin and probably others conclude that it's the race name, although we have the Anunnaki, which is a name that was given to them when they arrived here on Earth.
Yeah.
We believe that the Elohim was the actual name of the race name over on Nibiru. What would you say to the sort of the plural part of the Elohim?
Right, okay, so my thought on that is Elohim, it's God, it's Jehovah, it's just one God. So that's what I've taken from my Bible, and I've read the Hebrew Bible, and I've read the Quran as well. I've got the Quran inside, and, for me, all the Quran has done is back up the Word of God.
Right, okay, that's interesting. Thank you that you've read that Quran, that's good. Gives you an so that's really interesting actually. Okay, but if I remember correctly, there's the God in the Bibles. I say Bibles because you've got the sort of Torah and all that kind of. There's almost 1,000 different names.
There is, yeah,
for him.
Yeah.
Is it not possible that those 1,000 names for him are actually just the Anunnaki's names? And of course, when they're talking about an Anunnaki, they're, because the Anunnaki were 8 to 12 foot tall and far superior than us, could they not be those names as opposed to just us trying to fit those names into the one God?
Yeah, I believe that could have happened. As I said, we're the great unwashed, and the church didn't want us to know all of these different things. So, different, say the Jewish, the Israelites, all these different people. I think the Israelites, didn't you say they were?
Enulites, yeah, that's what Zachariah Sitchin had translated it as, and that would, from his point of view, that would make sense because he would be in charge of them, so they would have been called Enulites.
Yeah, so they all had different names for, to me, this one God. So for me, that was just everybody, all the different religions having a different name for one God.
Right, but how does a Trinity come into it then?
Because okay, so it's God, and God actually sent an angel down to Mary, and she became pregnant with Jesus. I almost forgot his name then. So she, and so you've got the Holy Spirit as well in there. So God sends his Spirit down to impregnate Mary. So you've got God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit.
Because I was doing some research, and there's priests and all sorts of people, pastors, etc., that don't believe it's to do with the Son, the Spirit, and the Holy Ghost, but just to do with three names or three personas of God himself.
That is it, yeah, absolutely. God came down in human form, in his Son.
Right.
I know it's difficult to understand. Jesus was a person in his own right, but actually it was God that created him via Mary. So he became man. God became man and walked the earth.
But he also would have done that when Moses saw him, when he came down in a cloud, which sounded like a waterfall. Some versions, I think, say that Moses saw the back of him.
Yeah.
So again, he would have came down. But again, could that not have been a craft? Because when I talk about archangels, I've got a list in front of me every time there's an archangel, and it seems to me that the archangels, bearing in mind I believe the angels were just Anunnaki, and especially the fallen angels, which were in the ancient text, the Aigi, which translates to watching something. I can't remember exactly what it means, but they would then have come down in the ancient texts to Mount Sinai, stole human women. But the archangels, they seem to pick up people and take them to heaven. Now, again, my translation of heaven should be space, because the people that they took up and brought back down didn't die. So therefore, and of course, if you go by the Book of Enoch, that says above the firmament, which is atmosphere to those that's listening and thinks it's a dome. But they do. They haven't gone that far back. Because someone I saw earlier said, "Oh, the firmaments in the Bible," meaning the dome. But if you go back further than that, you realise that But the Book of Enoch says above the firmament we can see stars in heaven, and so many of the translations where we've added the word heaven, in my opinion, should be space.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I agree with you. It should be space, because, most of us, if we've been lucky enough, we've gone on a long haul flight somewhere and we've been travelling up at 38,000 feet. And, you can almost touch space, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly see it a lot clearer than you could from down here. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And you think, well, actually, there's nothing. There ain't a firmament. I'm sorry. This is actually, I think, this Bible speak for what I would call space. Oh. Me too. I've got to say that now.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, I'm glad you agree with that. So then the archangels, because, for example, they take Ezekiel up, they take Enoch up, and they bring him back down. That's why I originally I used to think the archangels were, from the Anunnaki side of it, were sort of team leaders, managers type things, and Eric von Däniken also thinks that. But as I kept going back through the ancient texts, it kind of leads me to believe that they're pilots, still maybe managers, but the fact that they're always coming down on a craft of some description. And in the Bible, I think they talk about the archangels coming down, having supper with people and dinner, and having children, having relationships with humans. Again, could that, just from my point of view, you could sort of see the logic is probably more, from my point of view, more the fact that they could have been the Anunnaki and we're just calling them angels, as opposed to,
yeah,
I don't know what other kind of spirit-y type
celestial being.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. I can agree with your point of view, but have you ever asked? Did you know that you have a personal angel? Did you know that you personally have a guardian angel?
I do, but mine's slightly different take on that. Now, I've paid people, clairvoyants, mediums, and spiritualists for years to ask them as many possible questions as I can possibly do, as well as listening to thousands. What I take from that is it's a guardian spirit as opposed to a guardian angel. Again, in my opinion, we're just sticking the name angel in there. But I do believe in spirits, and when you talk to clairvoyants, mediums, and things, they'll tell you that they're guardian spirits as opposed to guardian angels.
Yeah. And I went to, for years, as I said, I've been searching myself. So I went to the Spiritualist Church in Bristol with my mum at the time, because I didn't want to go on my own. And we went there for quite a few weeks. I was told I had healing hands, and I joined the church and the Spiritualist Church, and I was quite happy to lay my hands on people. And I was told everybody has a guardian angel. All you have to do is ask your angel for anything you want personally. Good health, better health. Great skin. Can you just sort of find me a parking space, please? And there's angels of plants. There's angels of water. There's some mornings my back's so bad when I get out of bed, I'm sitting in the shower saying, angel of water, can you please, cleanse and heal? And it happens, and I know it sounds silly, and it's probably just me reaffirming to myself that you're okay, I'm okay. But when I step out of the shower, I feel better. So I can't explain that. Maybe it is a spirit. My mum and dad are both in the spirit world, and I say hello to them every morning. Good morning. I say good night to them every night, and they talk back to me. So maybe there's something wrong with me, or maybe there are spirits.
No, that's a fair point. But one of the reasons why I still think that the angels were the Anunnaki is because
Yeah.
in the past, if you read all the tablets and the scriptures and all these kind of things, angels were here, there, and everywhere. But now, since the Anunnaki 3000 BCE basically ceased to be here, whether or not they went back to their home planet or the older ones died. But from that point, it sort of diminished. Obviously, we had demigods, which would have been the elders' children, and they would have had longevity of life because of their fathers would have had huge amount of time, which also explains why, for example, Noah, who instead of being Lamesh's son, according to the Zechariah Sitchin, was actually Enki's. He had his wicked way with Lamesh's wife and gave birth, which is why Noah ended up looking different to Lamesh and his mum. Yeah, so that's why I keep sort of going back, because if we had angels then, why haven't we got angels now?
Well, having said that, though, you've had over the years loads of different appearances of, say, the Virgin Mary. That could have been an angel appearing to the young girl over in France. Can't remember where it was now. And she dug and dug with her bare hands, and out came the spring, and it was healing water, apparently. So you've had appearances of angels, in the form of, say, the Virgin Mary for eons. And is it just people hoping, wishing they're seeing something? Are these people completely loopy and they should be locked up? I don't think so. I think it is actually, we still see angels.
Forgive me, this is not a knock on you, but
No.
sometimes I see on eBay a loaf of bread that has an image of Jesus, and it sells for Christ knows how much.
That is completely, that's great. And if you want to, spend thousands on that image, I applaud you for having the amount of money that you can spend thousands on that loaf of bread. But what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
Are you going to keep it until it gets weevils in it? Or are you going to eat it? Are you going to eat Jesus' face? I don't believe in any of those things. I'm sorry. I believe in the Turin Shroud.
You believe that the shroud was the...
I absolutely do.
Okay.
Yeah, and I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. And loads of people are going to poo-poo it and poo-poo me. But I think, you know what? Actually, no, I do believe, because it was a spark of life like that hit Christ, and he came back to life, and he walked out of there. And, angels did help him. So maybe it was the Anunnaki that said, you're not ready to go yet, or you've got more work to do for the next couple of days.
Okay.
So let's get back to it.
Okay. Have you heard of a gentleman called Jeffrey Doherty?
Oh, yeah, I have in my readings. Oh God, that was a few years ago now.
He's slightly changed. He used to be a pastor or a priest or something.
Yeah.
And he went back and started to retranslate the original Hebrew instead of the text that we've got now. He went back with his knowledge of airplanes and light beams and levitation, all these words that we now know, that when the original Bibles were created into the English version, we had no knowledge of those. And his translations direct from the Hebrew basically makes it sound like Mary had a standard sort of UFO abduction, taken up in a beam of light, etc. So it's nice to know that there's people sort of going back to the original text, because we are relying on the limited vocabulary of people back then that translated.
Limited because they didn't want us to know, maybe. As I said, quite possibly didn't want all of us to know. They wanted to be able to draw everybody into the fold and say, we need, millions of followers to make this church work.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Yeah, I mean, it's it comes across as a power thing, because obviously they were, as you say, funding the churches and everything else.
Yeah. I'm going to move my kitchen 1 second.
Sorry,
Sorry about that. There you go.
No worries.
Oh, sorry about that. Oh, the dog's out. Oh, dear God. Right. Yeah. You carry on talking.
Okay, I was just reading some of the messages. The last one I just saw was Antarctica.
Okay.
Antarctica is an ice wall. Underneath it has an opening where the Agathans live. That's from a person called Sensei, I think it is. I wouldn't agree with that. Basically, yes, it has got an ice wall simply because ice, when it builds up, becomes a wall. But no, there's no Agathans underneath the Antarctic. If that person wants to research, look up the giant alien craft that's there, which is what created the treaty, which instead of being a flat Earth treaty, which people seem to think it is, it's a treaty to do with stopping people from going and seeing this massive craft that was possibly at least town-sized, if not city-sized, that's under the Antarctic ice. And then Sensei's wrote Admiral Byrd. Yes, I fully know of Admiral Byrd. Watch my videos. I break down. I've even done a Patreon video on Admiral Byrd explaining what he was talking about. And unfortunately, a lot of people on YouTube have just took his word without actually doing the research. So, yeah, sorry. Someone's wrote, Irene has wrote, where are you getting your information from to be stating all these things, man? Watch my videos, go to my website, you'll see why and whatever I know about. Again, if you don't believe me, that's fine, no problem at all. How are you doing, Elaine?
Fine, thank you. Sorry, the dog got out and I was like, woo!
No worries.
Don't want to chase him all over Wales. Sorry about that, everybody. I dropped out for a few moments.
That's all right, no worries. I'm
not reading any of the comments, guys, because although I do have another phone, I'm not going to go on and read any of the comments because I don't want anything bad to be said about me. Please.
Oh, bless you. I don't think anyone's said anything from what I've seen bad about you at all.
So what do you think about the? What do you think about End of Days then? What do you think about the end of the Bible, Revelation? What is that all about? And have we had it yet? Or
well,
the Euphrates is actually drying up as we speak. And it states that once the Euphrates completely dries up, we'll have the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse out.
The funny thing is, yeah, I mean, why the Euphrates? Well, the original tablets talk about the Anunnaki creating the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers.
Yeah, yeah.
So that would make sense that when they talk about the, Euphrates, instead of, I don't know, a different, instead of the River Thames or something, that would make sense that they're aware of that. So from a prophet point of view, the Anunnaki in many of their texts, different people, not just Enki or Enlil, but various others, talked about having dreams of the future. In fact, Eve, the second lot of Eve, not the ones over in South Africa, but the ones that Enki had relationships with some 200,000 years after they'd already created the first humans. He had a relationship with 2 women and they gave birth to a boy and a girl, which they called Adapa and Titi. And they're the ones that we call Adam and Eve in, the lineage that we've got, because of being relationships to Enki, who was a prince. That's why we've got. Whereas the ones over in Africa, they didn't really care about, which is sad. But she had a dream, a premonition about Abel beating up Cain, or vice versa, or having a fight. Enlil had a premonition about the oncoming flood and various things. So there was. I'm trying to remember the guy's name now. Dumuzi had a dream about Marduk sending some hitmen to go and kill him. And also on their own planet, they have oracles, and they also created oracles here on Earth. There's ancient texts talking about them having oracles that they would go to, not just in Sumerian, but also in ancient Egypt times. So there is definitely a premonition side of things that people were having back then, as well as the Anunnaki. So, yes, I can see them writing down something that they may have seen that they believe was going to happen in the future. Absolutely.
Well, I think it's already happened. Yeah, I don't know what anyone else thinks who believes in the Bible or reads the Bible or is in any way a theologian. I believe it's already happened, and this is hell. Although it's a glorious hell that I'm living in.
Okay, now I'm interested to know more.
Yeah, I'm serious. It's I think we're all just sent here. It's a bit of a testing ground. That's my own thought, and I do believe in something greater, as I said, but I believe this is actually hell, where we are now. And as soon as whatever lesson we were putting it to learn, as soon as we've done that, we go. And my dad was staunchly sort of, for this being hell. And he had decided, he talked himself into the fact that men and women, man gets 70, and he died around about his 70th birthday. He died in between his and Mum's wedding singing, and his birthday.
Okay.
And you think, oh God, he thoroughly believed that you get 70, and that's it. That's your lot.
Okay, that's interesting. Because spirits, and clairvoyance, etc., will say that this is a training ground. Earth is one of the early places that spirits will come to and learn until they learn enough to be able to move on up and become guardian spirits and move on up to the next plane and the next plane, etc. So,
yeah, I've heard that as well. When I've been to a few clairvoyants in my time as well, looking for truth. So,
how did you get on with them? Well, did you find them to be accurate, or did you come across some charlatans? Or
oh God, yeah, there's only one that was completely, as I believe or perceived, accurate. Absolutely, 100%. She was great. It was a lady in Weston, and I don't know whether she's still around, but absolutely, yeah.
It's a shame because those that's listening that don't believe that there's spirits or mediums that are actually genuine. It's nice to hear someone from both sides of it. So from me, I've been to them as well, and there are fake ones, and you've obviously been to them as well. So we've got two sides of the sort of the religious side of things that both agree that if you get the right medium or clairvoyant, they are amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. My sister's husband, before he was married to her, he went with a couple of mates to the Spiritualist Church in Bristol, and they were slightly drunk, and let's go in here for a laugh. And the medium at the time pointed at him, and he was right at the back of the hall, sat down, and he said, you've got an airman standing behind you. And he's saying, he's got his hand on your shoulder, and he's telling you this, that, and the other. And he said he was so frightened, he ran out because his grandfather was obviously in the war, and he was an airman.
Wow.
So, yeah, completely. My mum came with me on one occasion, and the clairvoyant said to her, or medium said to her, you've got a baby sitting on your lap. And my mum said, I wanted to jump up and wipe it off. Because she'd lost a few babies when she was younger. And the medium, clairvoyant, whatever you want to call them, said, don't be surprised if one of these days that baby turns around and talks to you.
Wow.
And that was actually, Mum said that happened to her. She had a terrible accident, and she lasted for about 7 days, I think it was. She had an accident on Sunday, she died on the following Saturday lunchtime. And she says, she's here.
Wow. Yeah. So, let me just get it straight. So she said that she could see a spirit of a baby, but at one point in the future, that baby will have the vocabulary to be able to turn around and talk to her.
Yeah, would talk to my mum.
In other words,
my mum said, oh, she's here.
The baby would grow up enough to be able to...
Yeah.
That's interesting, because I have heard from, mediums, etc., that if a baby dies, it carries on growing on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's nice to hear that again. So for those, if anyone's lost a baby, don't feel sad, but it's that they are still there, which is really good to hear from you saying that. Thank you for that.
So back to the Bible. Come on.
That solidifies things a bit. I
digress. Yeah, we have.
Yeah, that's okay. No problem at all. It's wonderful to talk to you. I'll tell you. So I was just, I've got some notes here, if that's okay. I'm just trying to look back down them again. Sorry, unless you've got anything you want to ask me, I'm just trying to go pick the ones that are more relevant at the moment. These notes. So
up and away. Sorry, carry on.
So the Anunnaki, there's people out there that believe that the word Lord belongs to Enki, and Ea, which I think is also in the Bible, I think, which is also his original name before they changed his name, or before the Anunnaki decided to give him an Earth name. When I say Earth, Kai being Earth, and Yahweh being Enlil. I might have got these round the wrong way. Forgive me, but because I think in the Bible there's bits where people I've heard it many times where they say God's a wrathful God, and then sometimes even a nice God. But from the Anunnaki's point of view, you've got Enlil, which was absolutely dead fast against anyone finding out about the oncoming tsunami. According to the tablets, it wasn't a flood, it was the ice shelf in Antarctica that was going to break off, and they knew that when the planet comes back round again, it will break off and cause a tsunami, which is how they could forewarn. So with the two different sort of main gods, which was be Enki and Enlil, sort of half brothers, is that not a possibility that in the Bible, when they talk about the Lord, because I've read somewhere that almost in the same paragraph it talks about the Lord and then it changed it to Yahweh, I think. So could they not be referring to two different Anunnaki?
Well, I suppose they should, but they could also be talking about he can be a wrathful God if say me personally, I leave. If I even just feel slightly like I need to get back at somebody or I need to have revenge, I actually say, seriously, Lord, I'm weak. Can you have revenge for me? Because revenge is yours. So I think that's where the wrathful God comes in, because he says, revenge is mine. That is mine. You are not allowed to have revenge. That I will not allow. Humans, I will not allow you to have revenge. So I just, okay, Lord, can you take revenge for me? Can you sort that for me, please? Because I can't do it. I'm just too weak.
Okay.
That's where the wrathful side comes in for me, and the all omnipotent and giving and gracious, and he's gonna fold me up into his arms one of these days and take me to somewhere much better. That's where the glorious, or the greatness of God comes in.
Okay, so
kindness, then, if you like.
Okay, I can sort of see where you come from that. I mean, I was doing some research on the Ten Commandments, and apparently there was two lots of Ten Commandments. I didn't actually know that until recently. Apparently, one lot broke, and he had to go back up. So I don't know which version that I was looking at, but supposedly the first word that was someone that really knew everything about Sumerian and Hebrew translated the first word that no one else really understood what was into Enki.
Yeah.
So is Enki in the Bible as a name for God by any chance?
I haven't seen it, but then I got the standard version, the revised standard version. So I wouldn't know, because that's all I've read since I was given it at school at 11 years of age. So it's the only Bible I've ever read. So it's not in this Bible. I don't know whether it's in the Jewish Bible. I've read through that, and I haven't seen Enki anywhere in that one.
I thought I'd just throw that out there. Enlil, was Enlil pop up at all?
Enlil, I think it does actually, but it's begat somebody, isn't it? So it's in the begat, so that would either be in Psalms or further back, I would have said.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it does definitely turn up. I've seen that one, but I would have pronounced it differently.
Right.
Yeah.
Because also Enoch was in the Old Testament a lot more than sort of the New Testament, because I think people had taken Enoch out of it.
Yeah, no, I've got Enoch in mine, you see.
I think there's only one mention of Enoch now, though, isn't there? Or
yeah, there is. Well, in mine there is. Yeah. He begat somebody, and they begat somebody else. So that's why I've got Enoch in mine.
Right, because the Ethiopians still have the Book of Enoch as part of their Bible, which obviously the Hebrew version doesn't.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And yeah, Enoch, I've got the Book of Enoch somewhere in the house. I know I have. I moved recently, so most of my life's still in boxes at the moment.
No worries. Thank you again. Still, I really appreciate it. This is fantastic. Can I ask what your take is on, for example, other religions then? So, for example, we have, for the Anunnaki, there was 12 gods. Then came along Greek, which just happens to have 12 gods, and then Roman 12 gods. What does Bible think of the Roman and the Greek gods if there was only one god? I'm just curious to know how they interpret the other sort of religion, so to speak.
Well, do you know, there's no mention in the Bible I have here in front of me of any other religion or any other god besides that one god. And me personally, I think, well, hang on a minute, there are 12 tribes of Israel, aren't there? 12 different tribes of Israel as well. So when you first said that in one of your videos that I watched, I thought, hang on a minute, there are 12 tribes of Israel. There are 12 gods, there are 12 tribes of Israel, there are 12 gods of, Greek gods. So that there could be something in it. But for me personally, I'm thinking, just thinking about it, going into it slightly deeper, they mention the 12 tribes of Israel in the Bible, but they don't mention anything else about any other gods, like Greek or otherwise.
Right. Okay, sorry to keep picking your brains. It's just like I say, not many people want to talk to me about stuff. Can I ask, is there any mention of gold in the Bible? Because the Anunnaki, their one true purpose for coming here was to mine for gold. So that obviously plays a huge part in their story. But in the Bible, is there any sort of mention of mining gold or anything at all?
No, there definitely is a mention of gold, though, isn't there, when the tablets are broken. So there are two lots of tablets, yeah? So the first set of tablets, Moses came down after tinkering away for weeks on end with the tablets. And it was obviously just two he had, or it looks like two, and he threw them down because the people had got so fed up waiting for him, all of the different tribes of Israel, all the people that he'd rescued from the Egyptians, they created a golden idol, hadn't they, to worship. So he broke those down, he just threw them down, and then the poor guy had to go and, obviously, tinker more. I'd say tinker. Had to go and, chip away at something else and do some more. But there are more than 10.
Right.
Definitely more than 10 commandments. There are hundreds, aren't there?
Yeah, like I say, I'm not an expert on the Bible, which is why it's picking your brains.
There are hundreds, yeah. And if you look at the Catholic, I've got the Catholic missal as well, because I did actually convert to Catholicism a while ago. I was given a missal. But there are hundreds of thou shalt nots.
Okay.
Not just the 10. I think the Christians are getting away with it a little bit, or the CLEs are getting away with it a bit,
Oh no, I didn't know that. That's really interesting. Thank you for that. Someone's just wrote, the question shouldn't be the Bible versus the Anunnaki, the question should be the Bible versus the Epic of Gilgamesh. I don't know if you know Gilgamesh. As far as I'm aware, there was. I don't think he's mentioned in the Bible, but
Gilgamesh, I don't think so. Not in mine, anyway.
So the person that's just wrote that, just to let you know, Gilgamesh was a king way down the line, 3 parts Anunnaki, 1 part human, thought he was God's gift to women from the descriptions in the Epic of Gilgamesh. And long story short, Nimna, which was also Ninharshag, created a creature from Gilgamesh's blood that would replicate Gilgamesh, but obviously was half a creature and half human, or half Gilgamesh. And them two ended up going on a long journey for Gilgamesh to try and get longevity of life, like his ancestors did. In other words, the true Anunnaki that came from the planet, not bred down. So I don't know why that would be in to the person that wrote that about Gilgamesh in the Bible, because that's a totally sort of separate story that doesn't, as far as I'm aware, relate to.
I think Gilgamesh is in the Hebrew Bible.
Is he?
Yeah, thinking about it, I haven't read it for a long time. I think it might be in there. And the lady you mentioned, Nimna?
Nimna, yeah.
Nimna, yeah. I'm sure she's in there somewhere as well.
Oh, right, okay. So
in the Hebrew Bible, somewhere. Yeah. Please, anybody out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think actually I've read about Gilgamesh somewhere in the Hebrew Bible. It wouldn't have been in the Quran, because the Quran is going from 600 years past all of that. So,
which is really good that you've read that, because obviously, I have people on my videos and my live chat saying to me, "Well, what about the Quran? What about the Quran?" But even the Mahabharata, if I'm pronouncing that right, from India, is way down the line compared to Sumerian side of things. So,
but the only reason I read the Quran, we spent a few years out in Dubai, and I bought one because I was just interested. Did the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, did he mention Jesus? Yes, he did. That's the only reason I bought the Quran, and I read it and reread it, and I thought, yes, he does mention Jesus as a prophet some 600 years previously to me. He actually states that in the Quran. So, all of these different things I've been seeing all around the world in Italy and different areas of Italy, different paintings. I've been to Egypt, and I've seen paintings of the Last Supper on walls in Egypt. I don't know whether you've probably been to Egypt as well in your travels.
No, I haven't. That's one of the places I haven't been. So
you need to go, because all of these different. There's a painting of Christ on one of the old temples, and the Christians took over that temple because of Anthony. I think Saint Anthony was over there in Egypt, and it's actually a painting of Christ. And it's huge. So he could have been one of the Anunnaki. Christ could have been one of the Anunnaki, because it's such a huge temple column that he's painted on. And then you've got a small painting of the Last Supper.
What colour hair was he? Sorry to ask that question. I know it sounds stupid, but what colour hair was that?
Dark.
Dark, right,
okay. As well.
Right, okay. No, I was just trying to get my bearings on what they would have, why they would have drew. Because I've looked at the very first pictures of Jesus, and he had short hair, no beard, wearing Roman clothes. But obviously, as time goes on, people grow beards, so it's that doesn't. Only people's hair can grow, so it's.
Yeah. Well, this guy had sort of shoulder-length hair, dark-skinned, and long, white robe, but with the usual big gold halo around his head. But dark hair, dark skin.
Okay, someone just
blue
asked.
Blue eyes, strangely enough.
Sorry, blue eyes.
Yeah, strangely enough. So, yeah.
See, so from my take on the Anunnaki, they were pale skin, blonde hair, blue eyes, which is I think where we get our blue eyes from.
Yeah.
and the reason why,
couldn't he? Could have been a cross match or a
again, going back to that Richard Jeffrey Doherty, who seems to think that it was an alien abduction of some description.
Oh.
If she was taken and impregnated either by little greys or one of the Anunnaki, then Jesus could have come out with. Now, if I remember correctly, didn't the description of Jesus when he was born had bright skin and blue eyes?
Oh well, it says, but I mean, if you understand anything, you'd know that even the dark children of today, they come out quite light,
right,
with almost straight hair out of the womb. They come out of the womb like that, and then they do take on the colour of their parents.
Because I think the Bible also said that he had glowing skin, which is the same as what they said about Noah, which, if from the Anunnaki's point of view, Noah was the son of Enki, which is why he had sort of white skin.
Yeah.
So is it not possible that Jesus was an offspring of either the grey aliens or the Anunnaki, but over a long period of time, 30 odd years, he got suntanned.
Could have been suntanned, quite possibly.
To a point that...
Possibly. On his travels, he was walking around quite a bit, wasn't he?
Yeah. No, I only say that because when I say that some of the Egyptians, such as Ra, was one of the Anunnakis, and of course the carvings or the drawings of Ra show him as darker skinned or brown. Whereas his daughters were pale, yellowy white colour that they tried to use on the. So, in other words, could they not have been in the sun, unlike his sons and himself, who were out working, doing whatever else in the hot Middle Eastern sun? That's sort of the way I look at that.
But they still have that luminescent glow. Obviously, they must. Yeah.
Yeah. And the blue eyes, I guess.
I would imagine the Anunnaki would have been like luminescent almost. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, someone said to me before, the fact that their planet wasn't anywhere near the sun would make them not have, would make them have the paler skin as opposed to being near the sun, having black skin, which seems to deflect the heat as opposed to being white further away. So I kind of see that logic there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'll agree with that one.
Okay. Someone's wrote, after the Anunnaki began procreating with the humans, we got the Nephilim. So what does the Bible say about the Nephilim, the giants of old? Now, just cutting you off. Just from what I remember, it said, the sons of God took upon the daughters of man. But of course, that means God had more than one son other than Jesus. Is that how would you look at that?
Right, so that is the Nephilim, isn't it? I would imagine.
Well,
I mean, it's I would imagine all of God's. We're all God's sons and daughters. We've all got that divine spark in us, as far as I'm concerned.
But it says the sons of God took upon the daughters of man, meaning man, human. Yeah,
right, okay. So, somewhere in here, it should tell me. Yeah, the sons of God took on. So, to me, that is, probably the giants.
Well, it sort of, from what I understand, it carried on to say that once the sons of God had relationships with the human women, some of the offspring ended up being giants.
Yeah.
Which became we call them the Nephilim.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, I'm not that far ahead. Yeah, so I thought the Nephilim were more angels than anything else.
Oh, right.
Because of the name Nephilim.
Right.
I didn't see. Yeah, I wouldn't have.
Okay.
I wouldn't have taken that on as being the giants. I've read that wrong, then, haven't I?
That's right. No. Well, so the way that Sitchin has translated the tablets, it says that the Murdoch, which was the king of Babylon, also the son of Enki, he was going to marry the first human woman, although they were procreating with them. So they contacted King Anu, who was back on Nibiru, and said, what's the laws about an Anunnaki marrying someone else? And they said, well, there is no laws because they've never come across another alien race.
Yeah.
So they allowed the marriage, and because Marduk was also at one point in charge of the Aigi, which was another part of the Anunnaki. Sorry, my phone battery's dying. That's a shame. I didn't realise it was going to die that quickly. Let me try and think what to do. Sorry.
That's right.
Wow, I didn't.
I thought Marduk was quite a nasty god.
He ended up being a nasty god. He ended up fighting with Enlil, Ningazida, and various other people, because he kept getting passed over because his dad was from a concubine as opposed to so there was no way he was going to get any sort of power.
Slave.
Yeah. Right, sorry, my phone's beeping, which means that this will end up cutting off in a sec. So I've never used my landline for Christ knows how long. So I would imagined it would have stayed, but that's the beeping there. Let me think. I'm just trying to think. I've got another phone here that's not charged.
Which sounds like me. I do that all the time.
Wow. It's a cordless one, so it's I'd need to put it back in its dock in the front room.
Yeah.
Let me think. Are you on WhatsApp?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. Because I could probably put you through, if you don't mind. I could probably add you.
Right.
Separately. Because I could probably put you through, if you don't mind. I could probably add. Okay, I can hear myself on the. Separately. Sorry, technology. Eh? So I will add your phone number if that's okay that you gave me earlier.
Yeah, that's fine.
Before it dies. Sorry, everybody. Just hold on 1 sec. How do I get your phone number from? Let me see whether I can get it. I will have to cut off. No, it's cut off. Crap. Oh dear. Sorry, everybody. This is technology at its best. So I'm hoping that I can click back without losing you guys. Hopefully I don't lose you guys. If I didn't write her number down. It's on this phone. Maybe I can go on to TikTok. Sorry. I did have TikTok up a second ago. TikTok. And go into messages. And sorry about this. Right, there's a phone number. I will copy and paste that and hopefully add that. Add. Oh God, how do we do this? Help. Trying to find how to do this without exiting the live chat. Tried to search profile, no. Chats, new chat, select person. I haven't added this person to my WhatsApp, that's why. Let me see if hopefully I can add this person to my WhatsApp. I'm trying to do a live chat on the website version of it. And I don't know if you can. You know, an audio chat. Let me see. I should have had a backup for this, shouldn't I? Okay, let me think. No, I've got another. Okay, someone says you can't, as far as I can tell. Okay, I have got another phone that's sitting beside me. I've just plugged it in, and that should have WhatsApp on it. The phone number you're not using no more, you might because another phone. Verify. Oh, God. Agree and continue. There's an update. Oh, God. This is a fun game, isn't it? Talk amongst yourselves. Oh dear. Best laid plans. The problem was the person doesn't have 1,000 followers, so couldn't actually join me live on that. And the battery's dying on this. So I'm just trying to open up WhatsApp. Oh no, it's asking for a phone number. That doesn't work. Haven't got a SIM in that. Just trying to think how to get a live chat. Typical. My daughter's not in, so I can't borrow her phone. People was talking about how many phones they've got. If you could ask the all-knowing one a question, what would it be? How to call this person back? All this technology. Give me a sec. Let me have a think on how to do this. Call via internet. I was just having a quick Google to see if there's any ways to ring someone. I don't know the answer to that. Oh, typical. Well, that's a killer, isn't it? I'm just trying something here. Sorry, people. Wow. I'd be throwing tomatoes at me by now if I was you lot. Okay, there's a... I don't know if this is going to work. My daughter's just walked in. Okay, can everyone hold on? I'll see if she's got any ideas. One sec. I hope it's charged. Sorry, everybody. My daughter suggested to me that I nab my boy's phone, which I didn't think of. Just powering it up. Chances are he's probably dying because that's my boy. He's left it unplugged. So if you're listening, forgive me. Really, please forgive me. I'm just powering his phone up now. And I'm going to plug a charger wire into his phone. Okay, so we'll see what happens. Okay, his battery's bloody dying. Okay, so I've plugged his phone in. Just gonna swipe up. We'll get there, everybody. Don't worry. Got to remember his password now. How do you? Okay, it's just starting the phone up. Okay, I can see some questions. It's a shame I couldn't answer all of the questions directly as they went along. So I'm just going to go back and try and view the live chat while the phone's going, and then I'll just hopefully give her a call again if she doesn't mind. So the phone. anyone hear our guest talking?
Can anyone hear me reading out your questions?
If you could just write yes, if you can hear the person.
A couple of people have just joined.
Yeah, I can see all of them.
Somebody shared the live. Welcome back. Somebody said welcome back. So.
Yes. Oh, okay. We got you now. I'm so sorry about that. That's
right.
I'll blame the BBC for that.
They do everything, don't they?
Yeah. Where was we? So there's a tablet also in the British Museum called the Adrahasis, which literally has the Anunnaki complaining to Enlil that the hard work of mining for gold in the Abzu, which is South Africa, is too much for them. And that's when Enki came up with the idea of manipulating the hominid there to try and create him in their image, which it does say in some Bibles, if I remember correctly, that it says in their image, and then later on it was changed to his image.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I've got in his image, created man in his image, yeah.
Yeah, I think that the Old Testament had in their image, which is obviously matches that tablet that's in the British Museum.
Right, okay. Yeah, and mine, because it's one of the ones you give to school children, it says, God created man in his image, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, again, is it possible that people like the Rockefellers, as time went on, not necessarily them further back, but certainly more modern times, where they have a narrative that they want to try and push, would change things like, I mean, King James obviously had a version that he's obviously doctored as well, and the Romans supposedly doctored the Bibles.
Yeah.
So is it possible that the Anunnaki were the what the Bible's talking about, from the tablets, from the descriptions of everything, that sort of makes more sense? I'm not knocking you, please don't take it that way, but I'm just trying.
No. It's a definite possibility, isn't it? From everything I've gleaned, not just from your podcasts and your, listening to your lives as well. From what I've gleaned from that alone, yeah, it's absolutely a possibility. As I said, they've reworked it so that the great unwashed keep following them and keep giving them their hard-earned pennies. And the Rockefellers, people like that, I really don't like them, because they keep a lot of the sort of, like you say, the cuneiform tablets, things like that. They've different large corporations that they've created keep a lot of this truth from the people.
It is, yeah, they definitely do that. Have you heard about you probably saw the video, but the court case that the Smithsonian had, where they were told off for throwing giant skeletons in the ocean back in 1902.
Yeah, I did hear about that. So why have they been doing that? They've just been trying to keep the truth from everybody, and giant skeletons are being found now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I was, when I was researching back in 2016, I came across an article in a paper in Texas, I think it was, and the guy had found an 8-foot skeleton, and at the end of it, he said that he was going to donate it to the Smithsonian, which is, if you do your research, it comes back as the Rockefellers are basically running it, really.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, we'll never see that skeleton. Of course, it's not on show, and never will be.
Yeah.
So anyone that finds a giant skeleton, do not give it to the Smithsonian.
Yeah, definitely. Don't even sell it to them, because they will definitely try and ply you with loads of money.
Which I suppose ain't a bad thing, is it?
No, not a bad thing, but, if you want the truth to get out there, then I wouldn't. Yeah, but if somebody offered me a couple of million, if I found a big skeleton on my property, I'd probably say, yeah, that's fine. Take it away.
Yeah, what giant skeleton? I don't remember seeing one.
Yeah. Yeah. So So what do you think about the devil? Who's the devil then? Is there just one, or are there many, or is there no devil?
So the take I had on Lucifer, for example, there was when the Aegi came down from Mars, they had a few different leaders at that point. Don't ask me to remember their names, but I'm more inclined with Anzu. Now, he was the grandson of Alalula. So Alalula was the very first Anunnaki on this planet, which I have a feeling, I might be completely way off, but where you've got Alalula, you can probably guess where I'm going with the Allah part of it. Now, he was supposed to be in charge of Earth until they drew straws, and he got basically cheated out of being in charge, and then they had a wrestling match. He bit off King Anu's private part, and he was sentenced to die on Mars, and his grandson went with him, Anzu. But later on, Anzu started to learn how to fly crafts, etc. From the Aegi. So he was leading the Aegi astray, and in fact there was an actual battle, according to the tablets, between the Aegi and the Anunnaki, and eventually the Anunnaki, even though they're all the same, they're all Anunnaki, but they were younger Anunnaki. So when you see descriptions of them, they don't actually have beards. I don't know how long it takes, bearing in mind they could live for up to 1 million of our years on their planet. So I don't know how long it takes for them to grow beards, and that actually brings me to I'm trying to remember which one was it. Cain. He was so sorry. Just going back, hold that Cain thought, because I want to ask you a question about that. But so Anzu eventually came down and stole the tablets of destiny. Had a big battle with Ninurta. There's carvings of it. So I think he was probably Lucifer in terms of the devil, and I don't think there was. I know later on in Sumerian times and Egyptian times they talk about the halls of Amente or the afterlife or the underworld and things like that. But the Emerald Tablets of Thoth don't actually talk about a devil. They talk about the light energy beings that are in control of the underworld. So I think from that point of view, I don't think. And now I know there's also stories, for example, of Ayana going to the underworld and going through 7 gates, I think it is, and each time she goes through the gates to get to the underworld, she has to take off a different bit of garment. But I think that's more of a location than it is of the underworld, even though supposedly it was the underworld. But I don't know. I don't think the devil that we know now, with the red devil with the tower and everything, is only 150 years old.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think churches may have, and you can probably tell me one way or another, but I have a feeling churches down the line decided that if there's a heaven, for people to keep coming to church. If they don't, they will go to a place and then ended up creating sort of hell in that term. I don't know if that's what you think, or...
Yeah, well, I definitely think that they created somewhere with little red devils with pitchforks, jabbing you. If you didn't put any money in the plate, or, if you took money out of the plate while you were there, or if you didn't turn up to church. As I said, most recently, I converted to Catholicism, and I said I won't be in a great deal. I believe, back in our history that, somebody did something quite wrong, and that's why I'm converting to Catholicism, or back to Catholicism. But I don't particularly believe, as I said, I believe this is hell here, and this is where we come for, like a proving ground. But I believe that basically, I know it's going to sound like it's like a casual. I believe that, you get these sort of thoughts that, I could do so and so. I could just about go out and spend that 10 grand on this, or I could actually go and buy that car if I wanted it, but I'd waste all my money. And where would I be? That to me is like not sin, but it's somebody sat on my shoulder saying, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why don't you just have that extra drink tonight? That sort of thing to me is the devil within me.
Okay, that's that's an interesting. So, I guess what you could say then is each of us have our own demons, they used to say that, didn't they? We've got our own demons that we have to fight.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I believe. I do on almost a daily basis. I think everybody does. Oh, let's not go to work today. It's too hot. Let's just sit out in the sun, and that is a little bit of a demon saying, let's not bother go to work. Let's not do that. I won't bother to get the horses in. I won't bother to put them out. I can't be bothered. That's almost, to me, that's like the demon of sloth, because I want to sit in the sun. So, yeah, I don't believe that there is an actual devil, especially one without, especially one with horns and a big flashy tail.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always bring up Father Christmas was supposed to be green until Coca-Cola got hold of the advertising and turned him red.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going back to Cain. So the story in the old tablets basically say that because Cain killed his brother Abel, I've got it round the right way, haven't I? I'm trying to remember. Yeah. They banished him, but before they banished him, they made sure in some way or another. Now, if we go along with the assumption that they could create Homo sapiens, using what they called ME, which we would call DNA. They stopped Cain from being able to grow a beard. So, in other words, the beard was a huge stature in the Anunnaki's life. So, is there any reference to anything to do with beards in the Bible that would cause someone to be, like
shunned?
Yes, you got it spot on.
Yeah. I don't know actually. But there probably is in the Jewish Bible somewhere. But not in this one that I've got in front of me. It doesn't say anywhere that Cain wouldn't be allowed to. They do say that he's shunned and he's turned out, but he does find a wife eventually.
Yeah, that's what the tablets say. They also say that it was, I can't remember who it was, but had a premonition that he would die with a brick falling on his head. I don't know what the Bible says about that. How he died.
With a brick?
Yeah, he was building a house or doing something to a house.
Right, okay. No, don't say anything in my Bible anyway about Cain dying from a falling brick.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So again, I guess that goes back to the premonition side of it. I can't remember who it was. It might have been his dad, Adapa, but or Adam, as people probably know him as. But the premonition, going back to the fact that you was talking about revelations and end of days and things like that. I mean, there are people to this day that can still, predict the future. And there was many people did ring in to the police stations on 9/11, but of course no one believed them.
Yeah. Well, why would they? They just think they're all cranks, don't they?
Yeah. I probably would have, to be fair, but
saying about the in the Jewish faith, they actually do wear. I can't think what it's called now. They actually do wear a little block at the front of their heads, don't they? And I can't remember what it's called for the life of me. They tie it on.
Right.
I can't remember what it's called. But when they're praying, actually, it just states somewhere in the Hebrew Bible. I haven't got it with me. It's not in front of me at the moment. But there's this little, it's almost, is it pages from the Hebrew Bible? I think it might be something to do with that. But it's like a little block that they tie onto their head.
Ah. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I can't think what they call it. There's a certain name for it, and I can't think what it's called. But they do actually tie those onto their heads. And it's supposed to ward off evil or something.
Right.
So that's just me connecting Cain with the brick on his head with a little, a little block tied onto their heads. I can't think what it's called now. If someone can help me, if anyone can hear me, I know you can. Help me out if anyone knows what that name of that brick is called.
Shia wrote, "Where did the wife come from?" So if you're going with the Anunnaki's version, or of Cain being banished, he went to a faraway land and came across other humans. So humans have been populating for 300,000 years. Flood came, 200,000 years after humans. This is going according to the tablets. 200,000 years after they'd created humans from Neanderthals, they had relationships with the humans. So then for another 90,000 years, humans were mixing with the Anunnaki and also the original humans that were over in Africa, as well as the other hominids, Homo erectus, Denivisms, and all those other types. So by the time Cain left, and went off, there was 200,000 years of humans populating various different areas. So he would have, his wife would have ended up being just a normal. When I say normal, the first type of humans, because bearing in mind the first Anunnaki humans, the ones that actually bred with, was Cain, Abel, and the very next two was, three would have been Cain, Abel, and Seth, I think his name is. So there wouldn't have been any other Anunnaki stroke humans if he was banished, because they were the first three out of the block. So he would have married one of the original humans that the Anunnaki had created some 2,000 years before, and that were living all around.
Oh. It's called a Tephilim. Tefillah.
And
Thank you.
And they put that on the head, do they?
Yeah, they have. Thanks ever so much for putting that up, the Tefillah. And I'm sure it's nothing to do with the brick that supposedly fell on Cain's head, but thank you for that. Thanks for letting me know that.
Until has wrote, or Unintelligent has wrote, there's hidden messages in the genealogy of Genesis 5, hidden from unbelievers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on the Bible, which is why I'm loving this chat that I've got today.
I shall have to go through that again. In the book of Genesis, did he say?
Yeah, Genesis 5.
Oh, right, okay. We'll have to have a look then. Hidden messages.
Someone's wrote Yamaka. Yeah. I'm terrible at pronunciations.
Yeah, Kippa or Yamilkus. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah.
Enzo wrote, Cain was marked and set to walk forever. Well, that's sort of what the Anunnaki said. They marked him by not having him have a beard, and then banished him. But of course, he didn't walk forever. He ended up settling down. He was actually called back. If you go by the tablets, he was actually called back on the deathbed of his father, Adam or Adapa. He wanted all his children, and they went out and had to find Cain, which they managed to do, and bring him back. And then he left again, and that's when the brick fell on his head. So I guess it's poetic justice, isn't it? Because according to the tablets, he hit he killed with a stone. He picked a stone up, I think. And I don't know what's the reason in the Bible, because I know the reason that it says in the tablets why them two had a fight, but what was the reason in the Bible? Do you know?
Yeah, they argued over. It was their dad, Adam, asked them to get something. So I think it was Abel brought a lamb, didn't he, for offering, and Cain, didn't he bring a sheaf of wheat or something? Yeah. And they argued over that. Sure, that's what it was.
Right.
And it was Adam who said, yes, absolutely, the lamb is fantastic, and we'll use that for the offering. And Cain got really upset and uptight because, of course, Abel did all of the, looking after the goats and the sheep and Cain was told to work the land, wasn't he? And his offering just wasn't good enough, apparently.
Right. Okay, that's really good. Because the tablets is almost the same as that. Basically, the tablets said that when Adapa was born and they realised that they called him civilized. In other words, they could be taught because of the, I guess, being bred directly with the Anunnaki as opposed to DNA. They put they put Cain and Abel to work with. One was Ninurta, which was Enlil's son, and one was Marduk, which was Enki's son. And they both taught them. One was agriculture and one was the cattle. And at the end of the season, they went to show how much in front of Enlil, how much they'd done in that season. And I can't remember which one it was that Enlil liked the best. I think it was the Ninurta one, which I can't remember which one it was, but the one that Ninurta had taught. So they went away, and the two brothers jibbed at each other the fact that, Enlil likes mine better than yours, blah blah blah. And that's when they got into the fight. So I can sort of see the Bible version is very similar to what the tablets said.
Yeah, thank goodness I remembered that.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, no, it's good to know that it's not so dissimilar, is it really?
No.
So what I always wondered was when you had Cain, Abel, Seth, and then they had children, there was never a woman mentioned. What?
But they wouldn't, would they?
Because
the woman's irrelevant, really. All she's there for really is to beget sons and daughters from. And really, you're not going to mention the daughters because they're irrelevant.
Right.
All they can do is tend your flock for you, and rush them off to water and things like that. And
right.
Yeah, and then they're dirty. Women are forever going to be cursed. And we all know what that means. And it's like, actually, I can understand that why they wouldn't mention many women in the Bible at all.
Right. So also in the tablets, just while we're talking about Cain and Abel, it comes across that Enki, the naughty boy, ended up having relationships with his daughter, Titi, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but Eve, basically. And then she had a son, which was Seth. What is that anything close to what the Bible says, or is it?
There is someone called Seth, yeah. So there's definitely a Seth in the Bible, and that would be Eve's son, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, it's further down the line because Adam and Eve lasted for how many years? 700, 800 years.
Yeah.
They were quite of an age, weren't they?
Yeah.
And she kept begetting sons and daughters, we presume. So she could have begat something, or Enki could have begat something out of her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, anything. As I said to you before we did this, I'm open to all. Open to all connotations, and yeah.
Well, I mean, that's really good, because obviously talking to you, seeing as you've read the Quran and you've switched religion sort of thing, you've got a very versatile knowledge of a lot of it, as opposed to if I was just talking to someone that was just a Christian, for example.
I can't believe that I'm able to answer some of these questions, to be quite honest with you. I know I'm not doing immensely well, but all of this knowledge is obviously in my head somewhere.
No, you're doing fantastic, and you're helping me out as well, because it's sort of, to me, what you're doing, not without sounding rude, is sort of solidifying my beliefs that the tablets are from the Anunnaki, only because of the similarities between the tablets, which we've definitely got, and the Bible.
The actual stories.
Yeah. Someone wrote, it is said that there are parts of the Bible missing and that they're in the Vatican.
Well, there are loads of parts of the Bible or books of the Bible that are missing, but they're, you can get a lot of them. They're in printed form because I've got quite a few of them. You just go out and, go to Waterstones or wherever and you order the book of whatever. Yeah. So there are plenty of books that are missing. They're not all locked up in the Vatican.
But there probably is some, I would have thought, would you? Or...
I would imagine there are quite a few. There are quite a lot of things. I mean, why have they locked up the Turin Shroud? Because it's real or because it's not? Personally, I believe it is, but, they don't like people doing different sort of things on them, do they? Don't like them going into let's have a look at this, let's make sure this is absolutely spot on now, and do a timeline on it, do this, do that. So they don't like scientists going in there working on it and taking pieces of it away, do they? So yeah, it's to me it smacks of we need to keep everything secret because we don't need everybody to know the full truth.
Yeah. I mean, it's the old saying, isn't it? Power.
Yeah.
Everyone knows the rest of that line. Starts with power.
Yeah.
Salvatore has talk about the Tower of Babel.
Oh.
Now, there is talk that they found where they believe it is, which is in the middle of Iraq. And they believed it was they've seen an area that's the size of, I think, 3 or 4 football pitches that they believe was the base of a ziggurat that was, I think, 7 stories high, which they believe was the Tower of Babel. But and the reason why they believe that is because the remnants of it, so there's virtually nothing left other than some material, which I can't remember the name of, that is used as a concrete in between, a mortar, in between bricks. And according to the Bible, it names that as how the building was built.
Yeah.
The Anunnaki version of the Tower of Babel has it that it was built twice. It wasn't called the Tower of Babel; it was called the Sky Tower. First time round, Marduk tried to build it using some Anunnaki helping and humans, and then the other Anunnaki, such as Enlil, found out that he was building a Sky Tower. Now, whether that's a sky tower that would allow craft to go up into space or not, I don't know. But they got upset and went and shot it down, or shot half of it down. Then way later on, he decides to build it again. And this time, that's when they got really upset. And Iana, who was also known as Ishtar / Aphrodite, who was a right character, went and with sort of some sort of ray guns or machine guns or whatever, and just took out anyone that she could come across. And then they destroyed the Tower of Babel. And at that point, Enlil decided to change their languages to stop people from all helping each other to build another Sky Tower.
Yeah.
Which I guess is fairly similar to the Bible.
Exactly. Well, almost, yeah. I mean, God just destroyed it, didn't he? Because they were building a tower to go to God, basically. Let's go up and meet God face to face. Yeah.
But I mean, if you look at it from the Anunnaki's text type of thing, then he could have been building the tower to be able to talk to, instead of God, obviously, to talk to the other Anunnakis, maybe the Aigis up there that's in craft waiting for the gold to transfer backwards and forwards to.
Yeah. See, that's what I was going to ask you. Why would Marduk be building a tower to speak to the other gods when he himself actually is one?
Yeah, so it's an excellent question. Go to the top of the class for that. So that's why I say I'm not sure whether it's a sky tower that would be used for a craft to go up into space, or whether or not he wanted a sky tower. In other words, so when King Anu came down at one point, they built him this marvelous, massive ziggurat structure, which I kind of think might have been the same one that they believe is where the Tower of Babel is. But either way, they built a 7-stepped pyramid that they gave to King Anu, and it was glorious. And it was the biggest pyramid ever. And when he left, he gave it to Ayana. But so I'm wondering whether the Sky Tower, although we call it Sky Tower, and I'm assuming that it was to do with rockets, maybe it was just to do with who's got the biggest building. Like, you know, the Queen's got a massive building, and, you know, Trump Tower, and, you know, was it more of that? Was it him just having his own, you know, I'm now the biggest leader because I've got the biggest building? I don't know.
Yeah, well, it could be, I am also a god, so worship me as well, or worship me because I'm a god.
Yeah, I mean, if you go along with the Egyptian take, if he was Ra, he did say to a couple of the things, you know, his offspring that ended up running Egypt, you know, don't worship the other gods, only worship me.
Yeah.
Which would have been something that Marduk would have probably said.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Tower of Babel to me is, well, exactly that. That's why they called it that. Because, you know, everyone decided, well, let's build a tower so, you know, so we can see God in the face. We can talk to God. And God said, no, we're not doing that because you can't look me in the face, because if you did, you would die. You know, that's why he came to several different people as whatever, you know, a shower of water, a burning bush, you know.
Right.
Because you couldn't look God in the face without becoming, I don't know, completely insane or dying, or as Moses did, he went completely white because he, you know, from what I can glean, he did see God in the face. And that's what made him go white.
Yeah, he was glowing or something, wasn't he, when he came back?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's when God decided, no, we're going to destroy that, and we're going to make you all talk different languages so that you can't, you know, you can't get together and you can't, you know, gang up on me. Almost, really.
Okay, that's interesting. Lucifer has written, it was Angel Uriel who didn't agree with it. I think that was going back, I'm not sure what we was talking about at that point, but I don't know Angel Uriel. Never heard of that.
Yeah, no, I've heard of that one. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to say to Lucifer, thanks for that, Lucifer. And are you the fallen one?
I'm just reading the questions here. Sorry, there's a few people just sort of saying things like from Adam to
Moses
Noah.
was speaking to Jesus in the burning bush.
Is that what someone said?
Yes. No, I don't think so. From what I've read, from what I've gleaned from my Bible, Moses was speaking to God.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. Because to be fair, I don't think Jesus was around at that point either, was he?
No, but you know, Jesus is actually, you know, part of God, you know, as we know. But I believe Moses was conversing with God, and so was Noah.
So what's your take on the Ark of the Covenant, which was given to them, or they built for something to go inside it?
So that was God's word, wasn't it? Yeah, God wrote
tablets.
on tablets. Yeah, that was the tablets. That was the Ten Commandments. So it was basically tablets written by God. It wasn't. They weren't. You know, they weren't tinkered out by Moses. It was actually God who imbued his spirit upon that stone, and you know, the words were imprinted on that stone, and then the tablets were kept in the Ark of the Covenant.
But how would it work with, because they took round the Ark of the Covenant to various different places, such as the walls of Jericho, where they would circle the building or the area for 6 days, and then they blew trumpets. So whoever had the Ark of the Covenant would win any war, from what I remember.
Yes, yeah.
How would that have happened if you've just got the sort of word of God in it, or because a lot of people believe it was some sort of power source, or because the priests that carried it, and it only had to be certain priests, and they had to wear certain costumes, and they would die fairly regularly, apparently, from what I remember, because of, I'm guessing, radiation or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah, it could quite possibly be from that sort of thing, because God would have, I don't know, possibly done it with his eyes. He would have burned in, or, if we're talking about the Anunnaki or the Enki, they could have quite possibly burned that in with some sort of ray, and that could have quite possibly had loads of, what were you saying? Irradiation in it. Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, apparently, I heard over the years that actually made a noise. It actually had a certain vibration to it, and you could hear it as noise.
Right.
So
that's interesting, because I believe that the pyramids were built using sound frequencies, and to bring the walls of Jericho down with the trumpets could the Ark actually have been some sort of amplifier, thus why we would get sound?
Yeah, I would have thought so. Yeah.
Also, I don't know if you're aware, but the Ark is actually the same size in cubits. I think it's 2.5 by 1.5 by 1.5 cubits, which is the same size as the inside of the granite block that's inside the Great Pyramid, where people think it's a sarcophagus, but it's only 5 foot with no lid. But it just so happens it would fit exactly the Ark in there if it was placed in it.
Yeah, now I heard all of what I've told you over in Dubai.
Right.
That there was actually a sound frequency coming off it, and we could hear it as sound, but it was actually that frequency, that exact frequency that we could hear. So yeah, I believe it. I've been into that tomb that you're talking about, and I've seen that huge thing, that huge piece of granite. And it would fit in there. You're absolutely right.
Wow.
Yeah.
To the person that's given me roses at the moment, thank you very much, and to all those that I've not thanked, because obviously someone might have been talking at the time. Just sort of saying thank you for those people that's doing that. So Salvatore's talk about the pyramids. Is there any mention in the Bible of the pyramids? Not that I say it's been a donkey's years since I've even looked at one properly.
Yeah, there is definitely, isn't there? Because that's where you get the little bit about the slaves in Egypt, and they're building the pyramids, and they're slaves to the Egyptians, and they're building all of their great monuments for them. So yeah, there is definitely somewhere in here. I can't think which book it's in. It would be before Exodus, I think. So yeah, there's definitely, because they were kept enslaved for 400 years or something.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to look at that up, actually, because I'm interested in that, because obviously I go by the sort of the tablets which date the pyramids, or certainly the Giza pyramids, at approximately 9,000 to 10,000 years ago, which we was hunter gatherers back then.
Yeah.
And obviously, if I go by the tablets, what had happened is the tsunami came, washed out Abzu, washed out most of Mesopotamia, and one of the only places that was still quite dry and high was Giza. So that's when they come up with the idea of building the pyramids, according to the tablets. So there wasn't many people, because they do talk about Noah, and they did say there was some sort of stragglers that had survived the tsunami.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether, because that's why I'd be interested in read that, because obviously this version from the Anunnaki would have sort of put it that the Anunnaki would have built those pyramids as
Yeah.
opposed to Egyptian people. But that's why I'd like to read it, because I'd be interested to see how it's written. In other words, does it specifically point to the pyramids, or is it just saying in general? Because obviously we've got Valley of the Kings and all these kind of fantastic structures. Are they actually just talking about structures in general, but not pointing to the pyramids? Because so I'd be interested to look into that, actually.
Oh, I got pictures here at the top of Genesis, page 36, Genesis 41, and Genesis 42. Yeah, and there are pictures of the slaves building.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen those sort of pictures online,
Yeah.
and I did a hell of a lot of research into the pyramids to try and work out how they would have done it. You know, they would have needed a ramp, and the quarry is only about a mile away, so they would have had to have the ramp going up so steep, so they would have had to have made it going round in a spiral to stop it from clogging up. And if you believe that it was done in Khufu's time, then it would have had to been 2.5 blocks per minute. That's not including night. Well, that is including night time, but not including the fact that the Nile would have flooded and they would have had to stop. So I struggle, just sort of without sounding rude, please don't forgive me, but because they've put a picture in of something, I still would want to see the original tablets of that, or the text or anything of that, to see how they described it, because the original Anunnaki tablets do talk about, they don't call it the word a pyramid, but they do talk about the pyramid with 4 sides or 6 sides for the Great Pyramid.
Yeah. Well, of course, I'm just taking this, like, well, okay, that's they've got a picture. Okay, so they've got a picture depicting what they're telling you. So, as I say, it could be anything. I can't believe that people like you and I could be pulling along huge slabs of rock, even if it's sandstone. How are you going to move that? You're going to need so many trees cut down. You're going to need so many people. You're going to need, as you say, that's working night and day. And how are you going to get that finished by the time somebody is ready to die?
Correct. Yeah. Spot on.
It's not feasible.
Yeah. I mean, I did some calculations on how many trees, because the trees that were not necessarily near there, but the nearest part to where the trees were soft trees, which basically means if they would break under heavy weight, they're not like sort of great oaks or anything. So they would have had to have had over 1 million trees to have rollers for the 2.3 million blocks, let alone using the trees to sort of build the structure going up and around.
You've got Lebanon cedar, haven't you? And that's pretty, isn't that? That's quite hardwood, isn't it, cedar?
Cedar, I think, is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's another one, a really dark one. I can't remember what it's called now, but yeah. So you've got all the bits there. So whoever wrote the Bible, or whoever, they've done a good job. Yeah. It's a good. My dad said it's a good story. There are loads of horror stories in there. It's a good read.
Yeah, just yesterday on the way to work, while I was listening to a couple of priests talking about the Bible, they said. They started off by saying, this isn't a book for kids. There's incest, there's murder, there's everything going on. Yeah.
And all of these begettings all over the place. I mean, children are going to ask you, what does that mean?
Yes,
right? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what they actually said. They actually said, they brought up the fact that it was a concubine, and they said, surely kids are going to start asking what concubines are and things like that.
That's Dad's mistress. That's the concubine.
Yeah.
Oh, what is that, Mummy? I don't know.
I was just reading down the questions here.
Moses was speaking to Jesus. No, he wasn't. I'll read silently.
Just trying to. Someone's wrote to me, can you ban that racist dude? I haven't been reading the comments properly, so I haven't. Sorry, I don't know who that is. Forgive me, I don't know what's been going on. But I do have. I think there might be one or two of my mods on the chat, so maybe they hopefully will sort something out. So Salvatore's wrote, talk about the Anunnaki changing their names throughout time points to how long the Anunnaki live. Which I guess when I mentioned earlier about sometimes there's up to 1,000 names in the Bible for God. Enki alone had at least 2 names that we're aware of before he ended up going to Greece and becoming called Poseidon. So they did change their names. A lot of them did, but obviously the Bible probably wouldn't pick up on the fact that they were the same people. They would, might have just, unless it's actually clear in the original translations. Hey, I'm now transferring my name. I can imagine that the copy of the copy in different translations would have just wrote down and thought it's another god. Because I know the Bible was talking about fake gods as well at one point or a few points.
Yeah.
What was it they say about the fake gods? There's any, I can't remember exactly what it said.
Oh, yeah, you got me on that one. Thou shalt not have any false gods before me. I think something along those lines. Thou shalt not worship any idols. Thou shalt not put any fake gods before me. That's what I'm a little bit strange about the Catholic faith, because you've got all of these, I call them idols. You've got great big statuettes of Mary and all of those all around the different. And I am a Catholic, and I'm allowed to say it. I find it quite strange that you've got all of these statues made of porcelain all around the place, because in that respect, to me, you're actually worshipping an idol.
Right.
Seriously, I know I'm probably going to upset some people, and I apologise for that, but I've even got, my ex bought me a statuette of Mary when I changed my religion, and I said, this is not me, you know that, don't you?
Is it a worshipping, or is it just admiring?
Quite possibly, it would be more of an somewhere I could put my rosary. my son calls it a rosemary, and the first one I had was black wood, and he took it from me and decided he was wearing it. I don't know why. But somewhere for me to hang my rosary now.
While I've got you, one question that kills me. I don't know. It's probably not to do with this, but obviously, if I was Jesus and I was killed, died on a cross, the last thing I would probably want to see coming back is a cross.
Absolutely, yeah.
How does that work then if everyone's wearing crosses?
It's quite strange, because nowadays you're not allowed to wear them, are you? People are told you're not allowed to wear those, so I'm finding that offensive. Well, yeah, you're right to find that offensive, because if he was a person, and I believe he was, then he died on a cross. And why should we be wearing something that? But then it was his passion. He died in a passion. It's called the Passion of Christ. That is why I think Christians choose a cross, because they are depicting Christ's passion.
Right.
It was through his death that he took on our sins.
Right.
Yeah, and that is why. I mean, I don't wear a cross that often, to be honest, because I work with horses, and I'll get it wrapped around my neck and dragged up the fields. I've worn a few, and they've come off, or they've got caught in hay bales, and I've lost them. So I don't wear any jewellery, just in case I'm dragged along by it. But to me, it depicts Christ's passion.
Okay, that's
his last moments, and where he says, you know, this is me taking all of your sin with me. This is me dying for you.
Right. So, okay, this is, forgive me, this is because I don't have anyone to ask these questions for, but so the way I look at that is, if he, forgetting the sons of God unto the daughters of man, let's just say that there was only one, then it was Jesus. If I was an almighty being and I put my, a son or whatever on earth to do one of two things. One is, I guess, spread the word. Otherwise he would have just kept quiet. And two is for our sins. I probably wouldn't have put him in one place only. I would have had probably one on each continent at least, so that they would have got around.
Yeah. Well, okay, so that's why I think he had 12 followers, 12 apostles. He needed that many to be able to say, right, we need to go out and spread the word now. And Peter went to Rome. He walked into Rome, and he was actually crucified upside down.
Right.
Just to make a point of it, we don't want you here, you Christian. Yeah, and they crucified him upside down. I want to die as the Lord died. So they did, but they crucified him upside down. So, there you go. But yeah, actually, I think that's possibly why. And why do we have? There's an old hymn, isn't there, about his feet walking on this ground? We're singing the hymn about England, and his feet glorified this ground by him coming here. So maybe he did come here in his younger life.
Right.
Maybe he did travel. We don't know. I mean, in the book of Judas, it says he did travel. And it also says that he was working miracles when he was a child.
Right.
He kills a bird. He actually throws stones with a couple of his mates, and he kills a bird. And his mum tells him off, and he goes and picks it up, and there it goes. It flies off.
Right.
So, he did travel around. I mean, you don't hear of Jesus. You hear of him being born, and then you hear of him going into Egypt.
Yeah.
But then you hear no more from him until he's, 29, 30?
Yeah.
And he arrives in wherever. Not Nazareth, was it, to begin with? I can't think where it was. He pops up again. But he pops up again then. So he must have been travelling around, spreading the word. He went to India. I know that.
Okay. All right. That's...
But I don't know that personally, but, from what I've read, he went to India, so he must have travelled around. But I can understand where you're coming from. But why not put half a dozen around the world to spread the word quicker?
Yeah, the other thing that struggles with is he was put on our earth to pay for our sins or something.
Yeah.
But yet we still sin, and we have confessions at court, in churches and stuff. So we didn't. Is it because his life was cut short, or is it because we are who we are?
Yeah. No, I think he died for our sins at the time, and I think because we've got such awful people around at the moment, they're still, if you want to call it sinning, they're just breaking the law, aren't they? But they're sinning by doing whatever they're doing. I think the poor guy's taking that on the chin and thinking, well, I died for all of this. Do you not understand? As far as I'm concerned, I believe that even if I did sin, I don't need to go to confession. I will be saved anyway.
Okay. I mean, just
I don't mean to tell anyone go off and sin and do whatever you want to do, and live the worst life ever or your best life ever if you want to take it that way, because you'll be saved. Because I'm not sure about that one.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get my head around it. So, the only species on this planet that would be able to sin, in other words, have laws to break, would be humans, and they would have been created by God himself.
Yes, yeah. So I'll pose a question then. Do you think God would have put the divine spark in all of us and left us? I don't believe myself he would have.
But there are other animals out there that's highly intelligent, and if they had opposable thumbs, for example, squids and octopuses and
Yeah,
dolphins are way up there in the intelligence level. Even squirrels
yeah.
and crows and things, if they got to a point of being able to create, would they need a divine spark just because they got to that point on their own because of evolution? That's what I was trying to.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so if any of those evolved into being able to, yeah. What's the book? 1984, is it something like that?
George Orwell's book.
Yeah. So if I did have pigs at one point. If they started talking to me, I'd have freaked out. But then I'd have wanted to talk to them because I believe every living being has a divine spark in them. How are they living unless they do? My dog's never sinned. I mean, she's pinched a bloody ham she's pinched a ham sandwich occasionally. The small dog's sinning all the time, pinching ice creams and things like that. But we all have the divine spark. I think we all do. That it's the life spark. That's what I mean when I say divine spark. The spark of life. When the egg splits in the womb, that is when you have that spark of life in you.
And that can't just be a natural thing.
Yeah, it could be a natural thing, absolutely. It could be the egg splitting into however many it splits into, and then you get half a dozen puppies, all different colours, or you get a child. Your son, my son. Yeah, absolutely it could. But what gives us the knowledge of right and wrong? It's not just you and me as parents that give our children that knowledge of right and wrong. They know. My daughter and my son know when they've actually done something wrong, or know when they've done something wrong, because they come to me with that shamed face.
Mm. But so does dogs. I mean, if you went up to your dog, he would have, after taking that ham sandwich, his full
he's
face.
Shamefaced.
Yeah.
He's full, but he's shamefaced. So what gives them that knowledge? It's not just you and I telling them they've done wrong. It's not just you and I. You don't do that. You do this. If you do that, you'll get a smack. If you walk out into the road, you'll get a smack. So they know it's wrong, but how do they know without us telling them that something is wrong?
Could that not be, like certain things in our body, we can breathe without knowing that we need to breathe as soon as we're born?
Yeah.
Could it not be in our DNA that, inherent things such as that? So, for example, is it an octopus? I think it's an octopus. As soon as it gives birth, the mum dies, and therefore the octopus either has an inherent knowledge of safety and right and wrong and how to swim and whatever else, or do you see what I mean? So I kind of think that we have got some traits that are passed down without us even realising.
Oh, quite possibly as well. Yeah, there are spiders, aren't there, that give birth and then their children, their babies, eat them.
Yeah.
So that's inherent, as you say. It's like the octopus knows she's going to die as soon as she's popped out the last one. She's inherited that knowledge. Yeah, absolutely, could be inherited. But who tells a child that something is really wrong, like stealing from one of their friends at school, for instance? They know it's wrong. They know they've done it, but they're still going to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's not inherited, is it? I don't think it is anyway. Yeah, that's not in your DNA to go to school one day and think, oh, I like that pencil case.
Was you watching me back when I was at school? I swear they gave it to me.
And then you come home and your mum says, "Where'd you get that from? Where'd you get the money for that?" Yeah, it's that's not inherited. No, so I don't believe that. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. I'm just whizzing down the questions. So, what's your take on heaven then? Only because the as far as I'm aware, the mediums, the ones that I've spoke to that I know are genuine ones, will say that there's only higher and lower frequencies. There's no heaven.
Yeah, well, I don't believe there are pearly gates. I don't believe that I'm going to get there and I'm going to ask certain questions. As far as the jokes go, I don't believe in the pearly gates. I don't believe that, I believe I have an angel standing next to me, documenting everything. Even when I'm in the shower, she's writing down what I'm singing, because I'm happy she's happy today, or, she's not singing today. I don't believe there's that. I believe we do go on to something much better. We leave this earthly body and we actually, apart from anything else, we feel a lot lighter and a lot happier. As you say, different frequency.
Yeah.
Quite possibly.
Yeah, well, that's what they seem to say. Someone's wrote here, Daham wrote, so I'm only reading it out because I want to try and be as equal as I can. Daham's wrote, Christianity is based off of pagan lies. I mean, I'm not an expert on pagan, so I couldn't even answer that.
Quite possibly, we've had pagan things mixed in, haven't we, as well? Definitely. Yeah, Dahan. Yeah, quite possibly, we've had over the centuries that Christianity has been around. Yes, we have incorporated lots of pagan things, like, different things we do at Christmas. We bring mistletoe in and holly, and they're pagan things, really. So they're from pagan, what do they call them? Yeah, we're festive times. Right. So, yeah, definitely. He's absolutely right.
Okay. Reyes wrote, how did the Aztecs fit into all of this? From the Anunnaki's point of view, it was just another location that they went to, but I don't know if the Bible deals with sort of Mesoamerica or anything like that.
Not in mine, it doesn't, no. But they would have gone there, obviously, wouldn't they? Because of the amount of gold that was there.
Yeah, and I mean, there's enough evidence, Pumapunku and those sort of places to say that there was an advanced civilization that could build these, marvelous structures that we still can't to this day. Enzo's wrote, God said, no man shall speak on my behalf. Beware of false idols.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
The thing was that I don't know if you've read the Book of Enoch, but I remember reading a bit of it where it said that no, I'm trying to remember the exact words, but I doubt if I'll be able to get the exact words. But basically, it said no one shall change their word. In other words, the Anunnaki's word. And then they wrote, and this is the only bit of irony I actually ever read in any of their texts. Then it said, but man will. It was like, they kind of knew us.
Yeah, man will change. Yeah, man will change something to make it suit themselves, won't they?
Yeah.
Or make it suit their own word or what their own belief.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or to, I don't know, to possibly understand.
Yeah, I guess
this greater being or these greater beings, to be able to understand. We've changed enough to be able to understand.
No, that's a fair point. Yeah, I mean, just because we're changing it doesn't mean it's a wrong thing. It's changing it for the way society's moved along to understand it.
Yeah, so I think it's quite, it's not the Bible's not for today's society, really, is it? It maybe needs to be revamped again, revisited and reworded.
Yeah, I think there's, just from my research that I've been doing of the Bible in the last month, I was deliberately picking on or picking out priests and people that Christians and whatever else, that I was looking for things where it said inconsistencies in the Bible. So even though these are staunch believers in the Bible, they were still pointing out where there was discrepancies, etc. So if people that are 100% behind it struggle, then yes, normal sort of people that's never followed it at all will struggle totally to, and I think that's probably another reason why churches are struggling, with people not going there, is because as you say, it really does need a revamp. Someone needs to go back and reread the original tablets with our vocabulary, so it helps
Yeah.
us understand that. You say to a child now, "Thy shall I not," or "thou," they'll say, "Thou." Where's that come from?
Yeah.
If you show an emoji face or a laugh out loud or something, then they'll understand it.
Yeah. Well, it worked for me when I was very young, but then that was almost how I was taught the Bible at school when I was very young. So it works for me, but now it definitely wouldn't work for kids now. Yeah, you're right. It would have to be like half a dozen emojis.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's terrible. I mean, my kid said to me the other day, "What's a cassette?" I was like, "Oh no, forget it.
Oh.
Are we that old?"
Well, I put one of those next to my ex because he didn't believe he snored as loudly as he did at night.
Oh, you caught him out, did you? And played it back.
And then he caught me out chuntering in the night, as he called it, talking in my sleep.
Oh.
So, I think we threw the last cassette out quite a few, like 25 years ago. Because it didn't meet my purpose.
Oh, okay. Time for a new one, was it?
Yeah.
An upgrade.
Yeah, I'm going to need a bathroom break. I'm sorry.
No problem at all. If you're happy to come back, I'll waffle on and read out questions and answer them.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
No problem. Thank you to my guest.
I'll leave you there with the dog for a moment.
Okay. Mind the ham sandwich. So I'm just going to try and read out some of the questions. Yazis wrote, "Was Moses' tablet are newer than the pyramid guys?" So from my point of view, yes, Moses came along. So that's actually a good question. Let me try and get my head around the time frame. I am doing a breakdown of what times I think things happened. So Noah. Okay, you got me on this. I can't remember if Noah came. If Moses came after Noah, didn't he? I think. In which case, obviously, it would have been after the flood, which would have been after the pyramids. In sort of the Anunnaki terms, obviously, the Bible may want to say it differently, but that's the way I took it. PC's Dragons wrote Anunnaki every time. Bible was fiction. I don't think. See, this is my take on it. I don't think. Especially talking to this lovely person today, the Bible, in my opinion, is a copy of the original tablets, but through different translations of different languages. So I don't think it meant to be fiction. I think it just tried its hardest with the limited knowledge that it had of vocabulary and of to be able to translate Aramaic, then Babylonian, and so on. So I think it tried. I don't think the Bible's done. Obviously, man later on has took bits out to try and make us believe things, but I don't think the Bible was fiction. I think it just tried its very hardest to copy the original tablets that we have actually got in museums, etc., around the world. Enzo's wrote, Exodus says that the Israelites were slaves in Egypt, and though the Bible does not mention the PYR, I'm probably not even going to try and pronounce that. Yeah. So the thing is, Dr. Zahi said that the Egyptians weren't slaves because they found records that people were paid. But, we're talking, thousands of years between the first dynasty and the 32nd dynasty. So at some point, people could have been held as slaves. I mean, we've, in the last 100 years, we've had people as slaves. Yes, I think there's probably slavery, as far back as when man figured that they could control another man. Not just in Mesopotamia, from what I understand, in other countries, even in Africa. Once you realise that you can control someone, then you will, make them a slave. So I think there is slavery going on in the world. Salvatore's wrote, talk about the stone tablets showing planets as we humans didn't know about. So I'm just waiting for my guest to come back. But those of you that don't know, there's a tablet in the British Museum that talks about the Emu Relish. It's called the Emu Relish, and it talks about planets that we didn't find out about until a couple of hundred years after we found those tablets. I think I've covered it slightly more on other live chats, but yeah, you kind of got to believe that those tablets are genuine when they're telling us, about the asteroid belt, and we didn't know about the asteroid belt for another 200 years. So from that point of view, that's where I go with the tablets. Phoenix has wrote, Anu and Enlil just need to stop fighting over Astria, Zeus, Hades, Persephone. I'm terrible at pronunciations. You're all doing this deliberately, aren't you? I can read the names, but I have no idea how to pronounce them. Fake is doing a fantastic job. He's got a copy and paste going on there, I've seen. Obviously dealing with people. Well done. Thank you, Fake. Kashmiri has wrote, the Bible was influenced by Lucifer, aka Satan, which the Anunnaki is about demons. I probably would disagree with that, only because the Anunnaki, to an Anunnaki, the demons was. I'm just going to make sure that phone's still on. Yeah, was a meteorite. Sumerians ended up using the word demon to add all sorts of things that they were scared of. Unintelligent has wrote, the fallen angels tried to break through the firmament to open the abyss many times. Let me ask my guest about the firmament, because that's an interesting point from the Bible. Hi, Elaine.
Hello. Sorry about that. Did you do the clink of ice cubes? All right, to get something to drink as well.
You're having a strong one tonight, are you?
Yeah, I'm sinning. I'm drinking vodka and orange.
I won't tell anyone.
Carry on the firmament.
Yeah, someone's just mentioned this. Now, I know the firmament's mentioned in the Bible, but obviously the firmament's mentioned in the older texts. So what's your take on the firmament, if you have even sort of looked at that side? Because I know you may have just read over it and not perceived it as a dome or anything other than just a word. What's your...
Okay, so I don't believe there's a dome. I believe what we've been told by scientists, that there is what do they call it? I can't remember now. We're the ozone. I believe that we're destroying the ozone, so that could be perceived to me as the domey part of, it's not a flat Earth, definitely. Of the...
How dare you say that? You're going to get bombarded. You just sinned.
Terrible. That's 10 points off. But the firmament. Come on, people. Come on. That's, I said earlier, didn't I, in our chat, that if we've been on a long haul flight, we've all flown 38,000 feet. So you can actually almost touch space at that. So it's space. The firmament, I believe, is space.
Well, when I've read the descriptions of the firmament, and they even talk about the firmament in ancient Egypt, I think Ra, one of his daughters, he let control the firmament, or measured the firmament, or something like that. Depending on who you read translations, but is in control of the firmament. But when you break down what they're actually talking about, they basically said that they struggled to get through the firmament, which to me is the atmosphere. As when they, if our rockets came through the firmament as they do, we struggle to get through there. That's why we have heat tiles, etc.
Huge power, and yeah. And we can bounce off, can't we? Bounce off the Earth's atmosphere.
Yes.
So maybe they're talking about the atmosphere.
Yeah, that's what I read it as. Because if we had an impenetrable dome, then we wouldn't have those meteorite craters that we can actually still see to this day on Earth, because it would have been an impenetrable dome.
Yeah.
So, but let's not put facts in the way of
a good story. Yeah.
Salvatore wrote the fallen angels were the Aigi, the younger Anunnaki. Yes, I would agree with that. Roy's wrote Moses was the first to use the iCloud to download the commandments to tablets.
Well, good on you, Moses.
He's got better Wi-Fi connection than I have here, don't you?
Yeah, me too.
Phoenix has wrote Harvest, Rapture Time, Wakey Wakey, Persephone, Ashra, God of Harvest. That's above my pay grade. I have no idea what that meant.
Well, I hope when we're all harvested, my chickens go with me.
Ah. You just enjoy eggs in the morning.
I do. Yeah.
Unintelligence wrote, God created the universe with his word, and then in brackets Jesus, through sound frequency.
Oh.
Well, these spirits, that, the light energy beings that's after they've left us, can manifest things with using frequencies. So sound frequency is probably the best frequency of all, I would have thought, but Chemistry has wrote, Earth isn't flat, Earth has proven that it's round. I think we're going to start off a debate there. Yazzie wrote, do we have symbiotes around us in our planet? I don't even know what symbiotes is. Sorry, got me on that. Okay, there's lots of people talking about round Earth. So just scrolling down. I just want to try and get these guys included, because I know they'll ask me another time, and I'll be like, I don't know, I should have asked. People talking about frequencies. Solid wrote Global Reset, which is a show for another day. Again, more people talking about things. So I'm just trying to find questions I can ask the guest. I've still got loads of things, but I don't want to bombard you, so I thought I'd try and so I'll answer that another time, Ray, about Enki, Quetzalcoatl. Ray has wrote Ra. Does the Bible talk about the Egyptian period any point, by the way, just thinking about it? I know you said they talk about the slaves and the buildings, but do they sort of point out any particular deity or anything, like...
I think they actually do, at some point, because Moses has to go to, what's his name? The Egyptian king, if you like, at
That's
the time.
Right, yeah.
So they do talk about them.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, because he gets sent, doesn't he, and then he did the 10 plagues, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, they do, actually, or it does speak about one or two of them, yeah.
I'm just curious, so seeing as the Bible generally talks about things that's happened in the Middle East, is there anything in the Bible anywhere else? I know we just mentioned Mesoamerica, but does the Bible mention, I don't know, India, Australia, or anywhere?
No, it doesn't. No. Well, I don't think it does. When I've read through it, I haven't read that is, that's definitely wherever, Italy, Australia, or Africa. No, I haven't read anything like that.
So forgive me, it's not a trick question, but from my point of view, I would think that the reason for that is because obviously the Anunnaki were in the Middle East,
Yeah.
What would be your reason as to why everything's sort of centralised in the Bible for that area?
Possibly because I don't know. Forgive me for calling them that, but the Jews were there.
Right.
Yeah, the Jewish peoples were there, weren't they?
Right.
So, to me, that would be because they were the first that believed that there was one God, and yeah, they worshipped the one God, didn't they? And it was one faith, one God. So, as far as I'm concerned, it would be just because the people of the Jewish nations were there.
Okay, no, that's a fair point. Well done. Unintelligence wrote, and I can't. You'll have to pronounce this for me. Psalm. Psalm.
Yeah, Psalms, yeah.
82 mentions divine council of gods.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that person is sort of pointing to the plural, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Just scrolling down. Same person wrote the Catholic Church is an extension of the Babylonian Judaic priesthood, and then wrote I can't pronounce it. Shekina. Sninka. I don't know. Worship. Sorry, you got me on pronunciations.
Well, obviously, yeah, the Jewish faith did spring from because Jesus was, came down the line of David, the king, didn't he? So he came out of that Judaic house where David was the king of that house. Or the king of the Jews.
Right.
So, yeah, it did spring from that. I mean, he went out and preached Christianity and to love thy brother and thy neighbour. And that's where it sprang from. So, yeah, it did come out of the Jewish faith.
Okay, I'm learning stuff tonight. Enzo's wrote, churches were not a place to worship God. That was to be done in private. Was that the case? Because in Greece, they had the temples, Athena's temple and so on, were places to worship, the gods or demigods. But is that the case for the sort of Christians? Was it? What was the?
No, I think most Christians and whatever faith in Christianity you are, you're expected to go to church.
Right.
And as I said, I told her you won't be seeing me a great deal. Because I do worship in private. I can worship when I'm sat here talking to you out in the open. I can say a prayer or worship wherever I like. So no one's going to hear me because God's all around me.
Right. So in your opinion, what was the first churches for? As a congregation or for...
I think that was just really to get people together. So, I mean, the first initial ones I've seen in Egypt, you've got to go because all of these things are out there. And they took over all of these old Egyptian temples to turn them into places where they could gather. Because what was it Jesus said? If more than 2 or 3 gather in my name, I will be there. And that is the initial thing, I think, about churches. They've taken that absolutely, as the spoken word. Yeah, if 2 or more people gather in my name, I will be there. So that's possibly why churches sprang up, because, okay, let's get like 50, 60 people in, and of course he's going to be here. He's going to be listening to us, prattle on and sing and, pray and ask for what we want.
Okay, no, that's a fair point. Thank you for that. Graham's wrote, the statues in the Catholic Church does not mean you are worshipping them. Laugh out loud, uneducated.
Thanks for that. No, I actually went to one of the synagogues actually in Bristol, and I knocked on the door, and the rabbi did come out, bless him. And I said, I think I've got something to say. Because it's strangely enough, on the way home, I'd been tapped on the shoulder a few times. I don't know what it was either. There's nothing in the car with me, and it was a proper tap tap, tap tap. And then I heard this in my head. Time's getting short. time's getting short. It really is getting short. And I went to the synagogue. I said, I've got something to say. Oh, what's that? I said, you're worshipping a wall, don't you, over in Jerusalem? And as soon as you stop doing that, then the Jewish faith can get back on its feet.
Right.
And he just shut the door on me.
Wow.
But I felt I had something to say, which, he obviously felt it was a load of absolute bunkum, which is fine.
No, I mean, it's a fair point, actually, what you say.
Yeah.
I think it's Indians or Pakistanis do that with their temple. They go and kiss the wall, don't they? I think
they do.
With that has got a black meteorite inside it, if I remember.
Yeah. And a friend of mine was a doctor, actually, a doctor friend. He died, and I was asked to go to his. I think it was 3 days. They mourned for 2 days, and on the third day they actually think the spirit is risen, and it's gone off, or it's gone into another child. It's been born.
Which I guess goes back to reincarnation, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I can't remember for the life of me what faith he was. But they worship Ganesh and all of these other gods and cattle. So
That's true.
Yeah. So who's got the divine spark? Everything.
I guess.
Yeah.
Look at it that way. Valerie's wrote, in the Hebrew translation of the Bible Old Testament, it references God as plural and male and female. I'm guessing that's the word Elohim again.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just people chatting to each other. Enzo's wrote, altars were for sacrificial ceremony. Is that something that popped up in the Bible? I struggle with this, to be fair. So, what's your take on sacrifices?
Yeah, they definitely were. The altars were actually built, and Adam built the first one with his 2 sons to worship God and sacrifice a lamb or whatever else it was they brought. Yeah, and then one of the guys, was it Jacob? God asked him to sacrifice his own son on an altar. Sacrifice your own son to me on that altar. Yeah. And then he stopped him, didn't he? He said, whoa, it's fine. It's okay. I know you worship me. I know I'm the only person above you now. So, yeah, I think the altar dates back to the sacrificial, whatever, goat, lamb, kid, a kid as in goat.